being here and joining us in our PPCR talk today. We're really honored to have today Priya Singh. She is a medical doctor and assistant professor of medicine at Ohio State University. She did her residency and her fellowship training here in the United States, and currently she works as a specialist in transplant in nephrology. Priya took to the program back in 2010, and she then became a teaching assistant in our program. She was senior for many years until her duties couldn't allow her to be involved in the program anymore. But Priya, we're really happy and honored to have you today. Thank you once more for your time from being here. You are more than welcome to begin. And let me, great, thank you. You have your mic open right now. Yes.
I do.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alma. Hello, everyone. I'm Priya Singh. I'm one of the transplant nephrologist and physician scientist. I work at Ohio State University. As Alma was saying, I took PPCR in 2010, which was pretty much okay. So in 2010, it was pretty much in its infantry stage, and I was a senior TA for 4 years before leaving it for work obligation. As Alma was mentioning, it's a pure honor to be invited by the team to share my journey post PPCR. As you will realize, it's not a conventional lecture, and I would like it to be interactive, and I would be more than happy to take all your questions in the end. So let's begin. First thing first, I have no conflict of interest. Sorry, Alma, I'm just still trying to navigate this. Okay. It's hiding my screen. Uh-uh. Sorry.
No worries, fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if I do the cursor, then okay, that's fine. So this is what I'm aiming to cover in the next 20 minutes. So we will talk about career development options post PPCR. The other question which my clinician friends ask me that does everyone need to do research, and if so, why? And the other important question which we face as young trainees is that how to start your research journey, and how does PPCR help in this journey? Where does it fit? And what are the challenges which we face when we start this journey? So, post PPCR, there are different trajectories that people can take. There are two ends of the spectrum. There are people who can be 100% researchers, and there could be 100% clinicians. And then there are people who are physician scientists like myself, and they can contribute different percentage of their time to clinical or research obligations. So the one question that many people, as I was saying, my clinician friends or people who are not trained in research and they don't want to actually, they don't like doing research. They ask is why do I need to do research, and what are the benefits of research to my career? So I feel the answer to that question is that research is going to help you whatever your aspirations are, whether you are academicians or you are 100% clinician. First and foremost, I feel it caters to your intellectual inquisitiveness. For example, most of my research projects have been derived from the queries that arose in my mind while taking care of my patient. For example, when I was a nephrology fellow, I was not a huge fan of doing kidney biopsies, as many times the patient bleed, and many times there are technical challenges that are there to any procedures. So when I was a fellow, my research fellowship project was to predict the renal survival with the help of machine learning. And the idea was to totally trying to bypass the need for any type of biopsy. Obviously, it's not universally accepted yet, but it's definitely a step forward in the right direction. Other than that, there are external measures of career success as listed here that research will help you to achieve, and this will help you to go ahead of your peers. And I'm going to cover everything one by one. So this is a snapshot of the annual faculty review that happens at most hospitals, and this is from my university. And as you can see, they ask about how many grants you have, how many publications you have, do you have any leadership position? So, you can achieve a lot of things when you are involved in research. And then two of the most commonly used metrics of career success are grants and publication. Later in the lecture, I'm going to talk about what are the resources regarding the grant application. But right now, just for continuation, grant, obviously, if you have a grant, you get protected time. So you will have, like, for example, if you have 30% protected time, then you can do that, give that time to research, and, you don't have to do clinical things during that time. And it is, I think, one of the biggest stepping stone in your career advancement. On the other hand, publications, they are very important. We call it the currency in research world. I know we always say that, oh, your publication should be good quality, it should be a big research, but I always feel, especially when you are starting, it's always better to have something rather than nothing. So even if you're starting with a case report, a review article, or a meta-analysis, everything is acceptable as long as your CV is not stagnant. And nowadays, not only this, many universities are also trying to assess the level of collaboration, how much you are interacting with other disciplines, and that is also used as a metrics. So other than that, your research will also land you to leadership positions, because when some university or institute is searching for leaders, they want somebody who has accomplished something in that field and that they can help to determine the policies. So I feel the research is going to help in that direction too. So now I think I might have convinced you that, we will all benefit from getting involved in research. The intensity of involvement may vary based on your interest and your level of level of your career. But I feel it will be important for everyone. So the next question is how PPCR is going to help. And, this is something which my father asked me almost a decade ago. Why PPCR? And I didn't have a good answer for him at that point. But I will like to share my background with you, and then, you will understand how PPCR actually has helped me in every stage of my career. So basically, I was fresh from medical school when I took PPCR. And like any other fresh graduate, I was very confused. I cleared my Indian postgraduate exams. I also cleared my PLAB exams, and I was registered with GMC so I can practice in UK. And practicing in UK was the obvious choice because I have family there. I was coming from a good medical school in India, but unfortunately, I didn't have any practical research exposure. And while in medical school, one question that always bothered me or always pondered me was, like, who decide that, for example, aspirin 81 is good? And that how powerful this, this whole evidence is that the whole world follows it. So I always was very curious about, like, how this works and how what are the basis behind it. So that's why then I told my father, give me 6 months and then I will do whatever you want me to do. So he supported me to come to Boston, and I took the course in Boston. And somehow I feel Professor Fregni has this sixth sense. Then he can understand that you are nervous, and in each lecture he will point out and he will ask me question. And I was in a pretty embarrassing situation because I was learning the basics and the principles of research, but I had no practical experience. So then what I did was, I just to, kind of escape that embarrassment, I applied to around 100 research fellowship position. And being in Boston, it's very good because, I feel Boston is the mecca of research. And out of that, like, I heard from few places and I was able to go to two research labs. I interviewed at two research labs. So first was with Dr. Darius Basil. He was chief of neuromuscular division at Children's Hospital Boston, and he worked on rare diseases like spinal muscular atrophy. And the second research fellowship that I got was with Dr. Mike Gibson. He is one of the famous cardiologists and a big researcher in United States. So I interviewed at both places and I simultaneously worked at both places. And the one thing which got me at both the labs, because they both are very reputed lab, and you have to go through this strict process. So what got me in there was the PPCR on my CV. Honestly, other than that, I was not different from any other person, of the same, like, level of experience. So PPCR, they felt, and then they asked me specifically that what am I doing in this research course and what am I learning. So I was able to explain them that we have 4 modules and how in depth, and how we are learning about the basic clinical research skills. So after that, like, I was very happy working with Dr. Gibson, and I was learning. He does a lot of large clinical trials, so I was thinking that I got my final destination and I want to be in his research lab all my lifetime. But then, like, I told him that I want to be with you forever. And then, he was a great mentor, and he told me to be a good researcher you need to have a background training, and then only you can think about future research question and become independent. He told me he does not want to me in his shadow forever. So he inspired me to apply for residency, and I interviewed at all places. Like, there were community hospital, there were community affiliated university hospital, and there were university hospitals. And trust me, every interview they were attracted by the PPCR and the Harvard logo on my CV, like, the Harvard thing on the CV. And then they will ask, like, about it. And even if some program didn't ask, I always made it a point to explain the comprehensive approach that I'm learning at this early stages of my career. And I think that is one of the primary reasons why I landed into the residency and fellowship where I did. And so the advantages didn't end there. So in my residency, I did the PPCR, and then I was a teaching assistant for 4 years. But still, like, when you start doing a practical research project, you're very lost, you don't know where to start. So in my residency, I did my first practical use of what I learned at PPCR. My first project was a retrospective study, and it was just a 13 patient study. So our study was testing insulin pump for type 2 diabetes. So people who are not aware, insurance cover insulin pumps usually for type 1 diabetic. But if you have to ask some questions in between, that's fine too. So what I was saying was, like, this research that I was in, that I was doing, was it was a very small sized retrospective study. But since it has the clinical significance on millions of diabetics, type 2 diabetics especially, we got a podium presentation at Stockholm, and it was covered by many newspapers worldwide. And this was my first big presentation. But, even despite the fact that there was room full of people, I had the inner confidence that I did everything for the study, from writing the IRB to data collection to statistical analysis. And then I was not afraid of the questions, because when you have done it yourself, you know the ins and outs of the study. So that's how I feel the PPCR training gave me that confidence, and that's how I sailed through that podium presentation in Stockholm. And after that, it opened the avenues for me, based on my PPCR background. In fellowship also, I was a research fellow at Dr. Chitalia's lab, and it's one of the established lab at Boston University. And there I was able to, again, I was talking about the study earlier, we were able to establish relationship of renal survival with the help of machine learning. It was a 171 patient study. So, from 13 patients, I gained the confidence that, okay, I can even do more patient study, and I can do the statistical analysis myself. So, and then the process continues. I'm currently involved in a lot of retrospective studies. So I recently realized the value of PPCR. Actually, this will be the last example, I promise. I recently, realized its value when I am involved in one of the lung transplant research where we have funding and we can afford a statistician. But trust me, it's time consuming. And I think the essence and the translation get lost when you have to explain things to statistician, because, sometimes they ask me, like, what is normal saline? What is dobutamine? Like, some things that are that is second nature for us as physician is kind of like, very difficult for the statistician. So that's why I feel, if you know your work, and if you know what is your question, and you know how to do the statistical analysis, I feel like, it becomes way more easier. So I think PPCR training and at times they even find it difficult to phrase, for example, a null hypothesis. So I feel like because you take the basic, like the PPCR course, you are way ahead of them, because you are already trained, you already can do all those basic steps which they are lacking. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I will say, is the role of mentors. So as I said, like it's sounds pretty easy that okay, you become an academician or you become a clinician, and but it is not so easy, especially when, for example, I did my medical schooling, I did the PPCR training, but still I didn't know where to start and how to start. So I think that is the point where you rely on mentors. And I feel many times, like I know PPCR is a very heterogeneous population, and many times like in US we find really good mentors, but many times you might not find really good research mentors when you are not in US. So my suggestion is that mentor does not necessarily has to be someone you interact. It could be a person who you aspire to become. Like it's always good to have someone you can interact, but even if not, then a person who you can aspire to become could be your mentor. And I feel there are different type of mentors. For example, there could be experienced mentors, like I mentioned Dr. Gibson, or for example Professor Fregni. If you see their CV, it will be like 100 pages with 500 publication, and obviously in initial phases of your career it could be overwhelming. But still, I mean I always make it a point to ask for CV from my mentors, and then see and look at a bigger picture, like not maybe 5 year, maybe 10, maybe 20 year, maybe not 100% of their CV, but maybe 20% of their CV. If you can achieve that, that would be good. And many times the CVs are also available online. The other mentors which I called are relatable mentors. They are like they are someone who is like 5 6 years senior to you, and then they look achievable. So someone like that could be also an immediate mentor, and who can guide which direction to go, and like which way to choose and which career to choose. One thing which I will like to stress in this, that like many times when you go to interviews, one question that they ask you is that, like 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? When I used to do interviews, I used to hate that question. I'm like, what are they asking? Why are they even asking this? But later in my life, I felt it was a very important question, that like what do you want? And that will decide what steps you have to take in future. So what I will say is, one more my advice would be, when you are taking a professional decision, or planning your 5 year plans professionally, don't forget your personal life. You have to think about, where do you want to see yourself? You want to be in big city, small city, you want to be in university setting? What about kids? How safe the area is? So you have to kind of take a holistic decision based on all those things. um, Let me, sorry. Yeah, so that was the second point. The third way I will say is, start small. Again, initially when you are starting, you can't be a PI of a large clinical trial. That is, again, like don't give yourself goals that you can't achieve. So I always believe in see one, do one, and teach one. So you have, like see one, so tag along with somebody who is already doing a research. Say them that you have a basic training you want to learn, and like help them in the way. So I feel unless you do one, you will never learn one. And I feel the teach one part is also very important. So when I was a senior teaching assistant at PPCR, one of the biggest advantage that I see was that I was able to do the course again, like 4 times basically, and that solidified my knowledge. So I feel that is again, like it's a very important thing. If you can teach someone what you are doing, that will solidify your knowledge. And what are the resources that are available for you to start your research journey? So there are, like again, in university settings, these are available a lot easily compared to when you are, for example, in a community setting. But still, I feel that world is a small place now, and it's your oyster. If you want to do, there are a lot of online projects and things available that you can do to hone your skill. So for example, at Ohio State, we have these grant writing clubs, like, K grant or R grant. These are all available, and then you can enroll in them free. Again, as I said, it might not be the same case for other places or in community setting, but again, a lot of things could be done as online. Funding opportunities, there are funds, like there could be a fund for $1,000, and there could be a fund for 50,000, and there could be $1 million funding. So again, based on your level, there are funding opportunities available. Your hospital might have funding opportunities. There are societies, for example, I think I have a slide for this. So yeah, so this is another one, like, in my hospital, they do the biostatistics course. And again, a refresher, I mean, I understand you got already trained at PPCR, but as I said, getting a refresher course is never bad. And these are all the the grant opportunities that are available. And then in your specialty, for example, I'm a transplant physician, so this is from American Society of Transplant. So they say that what all grants are available, so you can always start, and then you can always see what are the requirements. And I always say that, like, even in grant writing or funding opportunities, don't get disheartened. You will hear a lot of failure stories that, oh, I got my first funding after fifth grant, like, so those things happen. So you don't have to lose hope, but again, when you fail, you always have to go to your seniors, to your mentors, to people who are more experienced than you, and try to learn and don't repeat the mistakes. Other than that, for example, in our hospital, there is something called FAME, which is Faculty Matters and News, and they keep us, like, posted about all the opportunities locally and, like, nationally and internationally. Other important thing, which is collaboration. I feel collaboration is very important. And collaboration is not only in your specialty, like I'm right now working with lung people, I'm working with diabetic, like, endocrinologist. So collaboration again open a lot of avenues, and it will open the things that you are thinking about research. So I think collaboration is very important. And last but not least is, like, bite as much as you can chew. What I mean is, like, when you are initially starting your career, like someone like me, I'm just a 2-year old attending. So when you are starting, there will be a lot of avenues that will open for you, but you have to be very cautious that what all are important, what projects you should take, what projects will look good on your CV. And so don't waste your effort, because time is precious. So, like, when you are spending some time, yeah, on a research project, it should be worth it. So because that is a time you can spend with family, you can spend with your kids or sleeping. So so that time is important. So just be very judicious when you are saying yes to something. Other than that, I think, yeah, so I think I'm almost done with this. I'm just saying that there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and don't get overwhelmed. I think you're already on a right path by taking the PPCR, and trust me, it will, and it is helping me in a lot of aspects of my research and academic career. And I think after a decade, I have an answer for my father that this was the best $5,000 that I ever spent, because I'm reaping the benefits of it right now. So I will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for your excellent presentation and for
Thank
sharing
you.
your own experience in your journey. And also, congratulations once more for all your achievement and for all
Thank
the
you.
research and work that you are doing currently. So, in YouTube, we don't have any questions right now. Let me check here, guys. Please feel free to add questions or open your microphones to ask directly to Pia. Profit this time because she's really amazing and we have to wait for a month to have her today.
I'm sorry about that. I was like a little busy with some obligations. So I was trying to bite only that much I can chew.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, no. So I'm asking them to profit you.
Sure, sure.
We have great students. I remember that. Okay, Salvatore, he's asking right now: is it possible to give your opinion to be a good clinician and a good researcher?
I remember something which Dr. Friedman said. He was one of our, I don't know if Dr. Friedman is still giving the first lectures. He used to give the opening lectures. Is he?
Yes, yes, he is. He is.
He is. So I don't know if he's citing the same quote, but it stuck in my mind that the best way of contraception is to do research and clinical work together. Not to dishearten you, but what I'm trying to say is it is difficult, but it is definitely possible. And I feel in life, if you really want to do something, you will have time for it. If you don't want to do something, I feel you will definitely find an excuse for it. But as I said, like, you have to be very judicious about your time, like what exactly you want to do, and try to be like, I'm not saying you to become a businessman, but I just want to stress that when you are taking a research project, or when you are time is money, that's what I feel. So when you are giving your time to a project, it should be worth it. And when I'm saying it should be worth it, I feel every project has its cycle. What I do for any of my research project, I will do a poster presentation or a podium presentation, and then I will get it published. So that is a cycle of any research. So I feel when you are doing it, and with time you will learn that which projects will kind of they are worth doing and which are not. But I feel, yeah, it is definitely manageable if you plan ahead.
Great. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for your
Yeah.
answer. And then Gabriela Enriquez from Dominican Republic, she's asking, thank you for your excellent conversation. It was really helpful. My question is, what do we need to take into consideration before applying to a grant? Thank you.
So again, like applying to grant, there are a lot of it's like a wide area of we can have like a 1 hour discussion. But what I can say is, like, applying to grant, first you have to see what are, I always say that read the objectives and what the grant, like, they will give you 2 3 pages, and then what are they asking for. So just see that your project is suitable for that type of grant, the kind of money or the kind of time period that they are asking, your project can justify that. So that is one thing. So I always read what the objectives are of the grant, like 1 or 2 times, just to see that we both are in line with the our objectives are the same. And then try to see, I feel they're very religious, they grade you about, like, if you have all the things that they were asking for. So try to see if you have all the things that they are asking for. The third thing is, I always will say that make somebody read that submission before you are sending it. For example, your seniors, I was talking about relatable mentor, like somebody who is 5 6 years older to you, or your mentor, give them ahead of time, like give them a week ago or so, and then let them know that just see, suggest me something. So be prepared ahead of time, give them some time to give you feedback. And then don't get disheartened even if you don't get, again, like this is very normal that you will not get grants in first second third trial. But you still have to learn from your mistakes. So see what were the comments. They always send you that, oh, this is your rating is this much, and this is the reason, like, oh, your mentors were great, but your project was not this. So they tell you what the limitations were. So try to read that and try to address that for your next project. And I feel like those things are something, like that are important. And again, just try to use the resources that are there. For example, if there is a grant writing project that is going on, just participate in that, just ask questions. I mean, those are the things that I will say, kind of initially, if you're starting, those will help.
Hello.
Hello.
I would have a question. Hi, my name is Melissa.
Hi.
I'm also in nephrology. I'm currently in Germany doing the residency, actually also in transplantation right now.
Oh, excellent.
Um, I have a question because, as you know, there are not many RCTs in nephrology. I don't know, there are not so many patients and they're very specific disease. Do you have any experience in RCTs, or at least taking part of them, of such projects? Because I feel most of them have to involve many centers if you really want to recruit the amount of patients needed. And what is your experience in the US, or maybe with in other countries in this regard?
So which year you are in? Like, are you already done with transplant, or you are starting? Like, I just want to know what is your stage of
Oh,
career
well,
right
I
now.
think this. the system is here a little bit different. So I've been about 9 months. So
Okay.
it's only like passing by while doing the whole nephrology.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a little bit of idea, but I'm not that far.
Sure. So yeah, I have, like, when I was with Dr. Gibson, he was involved in large clinical trials, and those are big actually. Like, there are multiple centers, you sit in their conference calls and everything, and then there are, I mean, I feel that, like, just writing and getting a IRB approved for all these big projects, it takes like 6 months to 1 year, or even after 1 year you might not get through that. So it is a big project. Again, initially in the career, I mean, I will be very honest, I don't think, like, being 2 year out, I can be, like, running a big RCT right now. But again, I was part of the project, so I have experience in RCT, and definitely it requires lot of, like, great level of expertise. I feel that if there is something going on, you can definitely, like, participate in that. And again, when you are participating in multiple centers, I mean, you just reminded me of the RCT I was involved in, because it has so many levels of difficulties that, I remember we faced, like getting the budget. Like, people will say, oh, this much money is not sufficient for the center, give this much of money, IRB will be a problem. But I feel overall, like, if you get a chance to be part of a RCT, it's an excellent learning experience. After that, when you start doing other projects, you will be like, oh, I have seen RCT level of problems, so these projects are kind of a smaller level. So yeah, I mean, I'm co-PI of few projects which are right now in transplant. Like, it's a islet cell transplant thing. It was just started, but it is held right now because of COVID. But yeah, I am co-PI, I'm not like a PI for any RCT currently. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
And is it manageable with clinical daily life to be a co-PI or try to like contribute to this kind of trials?
See, that's what I was answering to the previous question. That's why I'm not still married, because it's not. Just kidding. No, what I'm saying is, again, you can definitely manage. You have to be smart about the time. What I do is I time myself, that I have to do this thing, like, within a week. I have to write this thing like in 2 sittings. So you have to time yourself. And then when you're timing, just be there. Like, when you're writing a grant or when you are writing a paper, don't get distracted. So if you manage your time, like, nicely, I feel it is achievable.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hello, Priya.
Hi.
My name is Pablo Cortez,
Hi.
and thank you very much for your talk.
Sure.
And I would like to ask you, what is, for example, it's a personal question. Um, for me, I don't think that the clinical practice I will follow this way. I like more the research way, the clinical research way, and until each point, until each point, should the lack of clinical practice interfere in the clinical research? Do you think that there is a link between them, or a professional should always balance equally, or one more than another? What do you think about this? I don't know if it is clear.
Yeah, yeah, it's clear, Pablo. So what are you doing right now? Can I know so that I can try to?
Well, I am a physical therapist,
Okay, good.
but I work with clinical practice,
Mm-hmm.
but um, since 3 years, I have been dedicated to a master degree, and now I'm doing a PhD.
Okay, excellent.
And so it's a personal question, as I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
to
yeah.
you.
No, it's a great question. And that's what I was telling you, like, in the lecture, I was citing my mentor, Dr. Gibson. And at that time, when I was fresh from medical school, you're already trained, you are already ahead. Like, you already did the MD, like, the PhD and master. So you are well trained. So I feel as long as you have a strong foundation, which I believe you have, I mean, if you want to do clinical research, 100% good for you. Like, but what I feel is like immediately out of medical school, or for example, PT school, if you just want to be a full-time researcher, that's not a good level. I feel you should get trained as much as possible, and then you can do that. What I feel is like, what I have realized for myself is that, like, in transplant, I do like 70-30%. So I see a lot of patients, and for me the research questions come from the queries that I'm not able to sort out for the patients. Like, if I have for example, I will talk about, like, lung transplant, for example. So in lung
Mhm.
transplant, there are a lot of kidney involvements, and we don't know why there are so many kidney involvements. Like, there are like 40% of patients will have kidney injury, and like 50-60% of patient in US will land up on dialysis. So that is the research project that I am doing, because when I was a transplant fellow, I was very upset that why so many kidneys are being, like, burnt out because of lung transplant. So then, like, that kind of that question arose because I was still, I mean, I was doing clinical practice. So I feel like, maybe like 30-70% for your case, like 70% you do research, but 30%, I feel that whole clinical stimulation, because the world keeps changing. Medical science is not stagnant, it keeps changing. So that's why I feel, for me, I can talk about myself, I feel that I will never become 100% researcher, because I feel that clinical stimulation is important for me to come up with the questions and to answer those questions. But I feel like, you are well trained. If you think that 100% clinical research is your way to go and your life destination, then yeah, go for it.
Thank you
uh,
very
did i
much.
uh, did I answer your
Yes,
question? Okay, great.
yes, very clear. Can I make just one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Um, since the PPCR that you made, uh, you probably must have a lot of setbacks during this time. Can you please comment about one, and what is the advice that you can give for young researchers like us, for example?
Yeah, so I feel like, setback is the second name of life. If you don't have setbacks, if you don't have difficulties, that's not life. You cannot have happiness all the time. And those makes your happiness even better. So setbacks, like, when you are a young researcher, finances are setback. Like, when you are asking your father for money, that's a setback. When you are doing a research fellowship and you are not being paid and you are getting money from your father, that is a setback. And then there are many setbacks when you do, like, you are doing residency and people don't know what you have done in training, like PPCR, so they don't value you. That could be a setback. I have a setback in which, like, my work, I was not getting the contribution of what I did, and somebody else was being made a first author. So that was a setback. Like, I literally have to tell them that this is the ACGME guideline for sorry I'm forgetting the authorship guideline, that a author has to contribute this way, so I should be the first rather than, like, being pushed to the second. So you have to fight for your rights. And I feel, I'm not sure, sorry, I'm not very kind of in touch right now if the PPCR modules have changed, but I think PPCRs conditioned me for the world. There used to be one thing, in our module, which was like business of clinical research. There is one thing about authorship, and I'm like, oh my god, we used to read that in PPCR, and I'm facing it in my real life. Like, that, okay, you are the junior most, and then you are, like, being pushed off because you are very young, and then, like, so I feel like, setbacks are there, and then they make you strong, and then they make you the person you are. So I feel, just take them as a pinch of salt, do your best, put your head down. As long as you're putting one step ahead of other every day and trying to reach your, like, the final destination, I think you would be good.
Dear Priya, thank you very much for your
Yeah.
answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Priya. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have one question in YouTube from Muhammad who is asking, thank you for taking the time to give the talk. Can you elaborate in early careers, some earlier career grants while in either postdoc or in advanced fellowship? Is the K grant one of these?
Yeah, and it depends on, again, I will talk about US, that, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of restrictions also. For example, if you are on visa, there are some grants that you can apply for, and there are some grants that you can't apply for. If you go to any society, like go to your specialty or your specialty of interest society, there are grants specifically for fellows. There are grants specifically for young faculty, which mean, like, if you are 5 years into your like your attending ship. So there are those type of grants that you can kind of Google. And yeah, K grant is kind of the first step, and then followed, like, R will be a bigger one. So yeah, those are the grants that are there. And there are, like, there are small grants, like first grant could be a 5,000 to 10,000 grant. Like, we have a pancreatic transplant grant that is given by the our transplant center, which is a 10,000 grant. Not a lot, but it could be good enough for a statistician. It could be good enough to buy a small computer or something. So there are a lot of, like, you just have to Google it, you just have to ask for help. And then I think, every university has their own specific grants, societies have their grants, but I think there are a lot of options available at each stage, be you are training or, like, you are in the already in the faculty position.
Yeah, and he's also asking what are the requirements for getting such grants in early career, apart from research plan. Do you believe that a prior training of research and publication are given more weight when?
Yes, I think, like, again, as I said, one of the things, like, for example, a visa is something for in US, there are some restrictions that if you are not a green card or a citizen, you can't apply for some grants. But I always feel, as I was telling you about the point system, when you apply for a grant, there are points that are given. So there are points that are given to the researcher, like there will be point given to you, and those points will come from your CV. And on a CV, if you have a training, if you have an experience, if you have a publication, if you have a background or a publication in this thing that you are applying grant for, even if it is a pilot project, all those are valuable, all those gives you additional points. And then there are other points, there are points for your mentors. Again, the mentor points are kind of easy, but obviously your points and your training definitely helps.
Great, thank you, Priya. And then we got two more questions here
Yep,
from
sure. Yeah.
Salvatore, who is in Italy. He's asking you another question, and now he's saying, which is the first step to do from a practical point of view in your opinion, when he was asking about how to do the balance between clinical career and clinical research.
So what was the question again, Alma?
So he was asking, what is the first step from a practical point of view on how to find that balance, and then
Okay.
dividing the week in days for research or days for clinical work. Thanks a lot for your answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, it varies from person to person. Like, for example, if you ask how I divide it, I, like, I start my day very early, like 5 o'clock, in the morning. By 7, I am in the hospital. By 10 o'clock, I'm done with my clinical responsibilities, 10, 11. So within 4.5 hours, I try to time myself, as I said, like, okay, 4 hours, and I should be done with my clinical responsibilities, so that my afternoon are for reading and my afternoons are for all the research and things that I want to do. When you are initially starting, like, you have more clinical obligation and you have to earn that research time. So so in that way, if you really want to do research, again, as I said, you have to time yourself. Try to not, like, that's why, if you are very organized, I will say that, even, I mean, I know I do that too, I work over weekend. But I feel like if you don't have to, because you have to give time, it has to be a good balance. You have to have a family time, you have to have some leisure time, because those will recharge you for the research, for any other thing, any other responsibility that you have. So I think balance is important. So what I try to do is I try to work really hard over the weekdays, but again, like, I have to work on the weekends also. But again, try to, like, if you're organized, time yourself, then maybe most of the works could be done, like, during the weekdays itself.
Great, thank you, Priya. Yes,
Yeah.
and I really agree about the balance in life. You have to also have some time to you, but also
Yeah.
create time for work.
Yeah.
Some people like they do regular work during the day, and then at night they do the other like research or anything that they have pending, and or
Yeah.
writing for publishing or things like that. So you have to just start separating it a
Yeah.
little bit. And then Gabriela have another question. She's
Sure.
asking during the press. She's from the Dominican Republic. Other great students, well, all of them they're really amazing. She's asking, you mentioned about the option to publish a clinical case report. Any other recommendation how we can continue developing the research career during the medical residency?
Yes, what I said was again, and I was discussing this with Alma in the morning also. As long as your CV is not static, like, as long as you are showing that you are doing something, you are adding something to the CV that shows your dedication. When somebody, anybody, recruiter or a residency program director, they are doing it, like, they are hiring you, they know that okay, every year, it's not that the only thing that you did in 3 years is just residency. I don't think that shows a lot of confidence. So I feel like, again, there could be, I always feel that there should be some projects that you can talk about. Like, for example, my machine learning project, I can talk about in interviews that, oh, this is how I did it. This was 171 patients and all those things. And then there are some projects which are low. Okay, I'm the third author. That's fine. At least I have something on CV rather than not having something. And then there are some interesting case reports, like, as long as you just keep your eyes and ears and brain open, and then opportunities will fall into place. But as long as there is some activity in your CV, I feel that's a good sign. So do some stuff independently, have some baby projects like your project, that you are the first author or you are the senior author, and then collaborate, like, it not on all paper you have to be the first author. As long as you're doing something, it should be good.
Great, great. Thank you. I completely agree as to keep improving your CV, adding activities is
Yeah.
really important. Um, then, so other students are saying thank you. It was an amazing talk. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time,
Priya?
for the
Yeah, hi.
motivation. Yeah.
Hi again, sorry.
No, that's
uh,
fine.
can you tell me about how is the field of clinical research in Ohio? And do you know if there is some program of master degree for clinical health in Ohio?
Yes, so Ohio is Ohio State University where I work. It's a big university and it's kind of pretty reputed university, and we do a lot of research. So yeah, there are, like, a lot of programs that are there. You can check their website, but it is very active in research. We have like a lot of grant funding, like national and international funding. So I feel like there are a lot of options, at Ohio State University. And I feel, just Google it, like, on the website you will see all the things that you are looking for. But I know we have engineering, we have like physical therapy, we have nursing schools. So I know this university have everything that, that all the major universities involved should have.
But the field for clinical research is good.
Oh yeah, it's excellent, like,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Just the last one. You said you have a lot of experience with retrospective and observational studies.
Mhm.
How, like, more or less, how big is your team if you do such a study, and how much time, like, more or less? I know you can do big and small studies, but retrospective are like, it should be a little bit less of work, sort of say, compared to big RCTs and something. How much time and manpower do you need for such studies?
So it depends. The manpower could be one person, which is me. Two, like, right now in the stage of career I have, like, there are some studies I have like 6, 7, 8 people involved. So it depends, like, which part of the career you are in. So when I was a fellow, I used to, like, I had like other people on the research, but I will be very truthful. I was the only person who worked on the whole project, but I have to give, like, contribution to others. Whereas, like, right now I have fellows, I have colleagues, like, who are kind of collaborating with me. So again, for like, I feel the most important question when you are starting any retrospective study is that, like, is the question important? What you are asking, what you're trying to find, is it important? Is it clinically relevant? Did someone did already have worked on it before you? Is there a novelty? Like, I spend a lot of time thinking and doing a literature search, and to see that there is something novel about what I'm thinking, what some nobody has done it before me. So that is something which I spend time on. And then writing IRB now, like, when I'm attending, I have some help also, like I can write the basic background and a hypothesis and all those things, but there is someone who can submit it for me. But when I was a fellow, when I did my other studies, I was kind of primary source. So it varies. Like at that time, maybe I took a month to write everything, and right now, like, it might be a week when I can do it. And but again, I feel like, at every step, if you find like-minded people, and then if you ask them, okay, you do this, I do this, it is achievable. And in retrospective, again, like, it depends. Like if you're doing obviously 50 patient study, it's easy, it's less time consuming compared to if you are doing 1,000 patient study, or if you are doing a 500 patient study, and what are your it all, I feel it all depends. It all depends on the question, what are the variables you are seeing. But I feel it is pretty doable. Like, it, especially in initial stages of your career, database research is very doable.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Then we receive a question and from a student, and he's asking, he's planning to apply to the residency in 2000 next year, so he will
Okay.
enter 2022. The issue is that right now he cannot do some exams because he cannot travel and the parametric centers are closed. So in the meantime, he got an offer position in a lab affiliated to a Harvard hospital. So he's thinking about going or not because it takes 1 year. He has to be there a fellow during the 1 year. So he's doubting if he should now accept to do it, go to Boston, live there in 1 year, the price and if it is worth it, and what would you recommend to do?
So who is the person who is asking, and which country is they're from?
He's from Peru and he's a
Okay.
student in the program. And he just graduated, but he wants to do the residency in the United States.
Sure, absolutely. No, I thought that I will address them by their name, but yeah. So the thing is, yeah, I will strongly recommend coming to Boston, because we feel that there are a lot of things you can do from home and all those things, but there is no um, no replacement for a practical experience. I feel that my life changed, and not only life, like my way of thinking changed after I came to Boston, and especially Boston. Like, I think it gave me the wings, and Boston is a place where everybody, I feel, is working towards a Nobel Prize. They are working towards a bigger thing, a bigger research. So, when you meet those type of people, it inspires you, it motivates you, it opens the world for you. You feel that, okay, this is what people are doing. So, rather than staying in your cocoon, you actually will experience the world. And I think I know, Pablo, I think, was asking about the hardships, but I feel all those hardships will make you a stronger person. I mean, there are a lot of, like, when you come from another country, like I was in his position too. So, there are a lot of problems, but I feel like, the person I am today, it is because of all those things that I learned in Boston, and there is no substitute for that. So I will strongly say, if the travel is allowed, they should definitely come to Boston.
Yeah, and he just added that the issue was that the fellowship, he wants internal medicine,
Hmm.
and the fellowship that they offer is neurology. So he's not sure if he should look for another fellowship just focus on internal medicine
Hmm.
and not go for neurology, even though it's a part of internal medicine.
Sure. As I said, like, the first person I worked with was a neurologist. And again, it does not matter. Like when I was in his lab, I told him that I'm happy here, but, I want to see bigger clinical trials. And he was kind enough. He was like, as long as my work is not getting affected, you can work in two labs. So I was working simultaneously in two labs, and then I was doing the PPCR course. So I feel like, staying in Peru and trying to find a better or another option, it's easier to find when you are in Boston. That's the first thing. And secondly, I don't think it's only neurology. Like, it does not matter that if you are doing neurology you have to do neurology. It helps, like, it just helps. I know many people from Professor Fregni's lab who go there, and but they do land into different careers. So it does not matter that what research you are doing, is the culture that you have to understand, it's the discipline in a research lab that you have to understand, and it's the working style that you have to understand. So I don't think being a neurology research lab is a roadblock. There are a lot of options, so he should definitely come look into the options. Even if he does not find anything, doing a neurology fellowship will help in the residency pathway.
Great. Thank you, Priya. Thank you.
Sure.
It's a great advice, actually. I believe that in Boston you can find many options, and like the doors will open to you,
Yeah.
the opportunities will show. Then we have more questions from now Stefania Enriquez from Dominican Republic, and
Mhm.
she's asking, do you recommend any book? Well, first of all, thank you she's loving your talk. And
Okay.
then she's saying that if you recommend any books to learn in depth about observational studies.
Learning about observational studies, I think the world is the best book. Like, you can definitely read the books. I think PPCR gives you enough background to understand about that. But I feel just like, supplementing it with kind of a real world situation, that will be the best teacher for you. So, I mean, I will like, there are a lot of books that are available, but I feel like, if she can find a practical way to do it, that would be the best situation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then we have another question from Salvatore from Italy again, and he's saying, so here in Italy we have a big now a big problem. I said that we have a few number of ethics committee, and if you're not inside of a university, it's really hard at the beginning of your career to have your projects approved. What do you think about this? Are the RV a solution to this problem in your opinion, even if it is not simple to find them too?
Yeah, I think I totally hear you. Like, it is, especially when you are in not a big university, there are a lot of challenges that you can see. And, I feel, except for the, like, making the most polished project that you can present, there is not much that you can do. So, like, the suggestion would be change the institute, or like, because I know that if there are a lot of struggles for, like, for the logistics, or for reaching, or if their institute is difficult, or they're not bigger enough institute. So that is something which I feel at your or my level we can't sort that out. So maybe moving out is something that I can think of as a solution.
Yes.
Alma, can you add something? I mean,
Yes. So yes, it's really hard because in some countries in Europe have this restriction,
yeah,
and they are different from here. But yes, I believe sometimes also the School of Medicine, they also create like a separate RVs. I don't know,
yeah,
in some Latin American countries that's a way that they work. That could also work for you. Maybe about to your society in your field, and maybe they can help you out to connect with the other institution, and have a better way on having your research work approved, so that's another thing that they propose in some countries.
yeah. Okay,
Yes. And then so there's no more questions. Let me check again in YouTube, because we also have people watching there.
sure.
No, just two. Okay. Any other question, guys? Feel free to open your mic or type your question here in the chat. You have made really great questions. Thank you. And thank you, Priya, for
Sure.
sharing all your experience and advices. And
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
thank you. We're really honored to have you. And Professor Fregni also sent you a message before saying thank you for being here really
Oh,
early when he connected.
please say
Uh,
my hello to him.
yes, I will. And then everybody saying thank you. It was amazing. And these things. Thank you all. So no more questions? Okay. Okay, Priya, thank you. And then any final words to the students and people who are connected watching you?
Yeah, that I think you are on the right pathway. PPCR will take you to places. So just keep believing and keep doing the right things. And, I think you have a great support system with the whole team, faculty, and then like, the TAs. So I feel this community that which Professor Fregni had dreamt about, like, in 2008, it has come a long way. And you guys are very fortunate to, learning so much from the whole system. So I feel you all are on right way. And then best of luck for everything. And feel free, if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you, Priya. So everyone, thank you again for joining. Have a good night and see you
Night.
tomorrow in our lecture.
Good night.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.